We're now joined by Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni for the latest headlines in today's newspapers. Good morning, Mr. Efeni. How are you?
Good morning, Leila. Good morning,
Good morning.
Ruben.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Let's start with these day newspapers. Federal government apologizes for protocol lapses at Abakiari's burial. Says end of COVID-19 still far. Develops draft for new action plan against scourge. Cases now 665 with 188 discharged, 22 dead. Edo, Ondo discharge index cases. Lagos makes face mask compulsory in public places. 8 private hospitals suspend operations. World Health Organization, no vaccine approved yet for Nigeria. Others. This story on apology from the government also adorns the front page of the Daily Independent. COVID-19, we goofed during Abakiari's burial. Federal government apologizes for violation of protocol. If we just quickly return to these day newspapers, which has this story, well, that apology coming from the government for breaking its own rules on social distancing and following protocol laid down. Many have criticized what was clearly a violation during the burial of the late Abakiari, and now the government is saying, well, we're sorry for not keeping to our own rules.
Well, the apology does not make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would like to quote President Muhammadu Buhari,
Yes.
the second time he addressed the nation on this matter. I'm quoting him directly now. The president said, this is not a joke.
It's not a joke.
It is a matter of life and death. And he went for that to say we cannot afford to be lax. Now, what it means is that by dropping the ball and following the protocols at the burial of late Malam Abakiari, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 was not listening to the president, was not following the directive of the president. So at one level, it will look like an act of negligence. At another level, it will look like an act of insubordination. Because whatever effect, whatever damage their negligence may have caused, you can only count it in terms of people being infected. You can only count it in terms of people probably getting, dying,
Robert, can we also
or
say,
transmitting it to other
can we
people.
also say that they were overwhelmed by the emotions of the time?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
And no, absolutely not. We cannot. This is the federal government that we're talking about. This is not an association. This is not an organization that we can even come and criticize on a particular level if they were to drop the ball like this. This is a country's federal government that, by the way, knew very well that they should not have done what they did before they did, but always genuinely believe that they are above public health policy and guidelines. Their apology means nothing, because really and truly, this is a government that can do this again and again and again. This is an apology that's unacceptable. What is an apology for?
But if they have apologized, all those who have convicted for breaking rules, shouldn't we forgive them and remove their names from convicted
No, we're
books?
dealing with an extraordinary situation. We shouldn't be emotional. However, the Minister of Health, Ozage Hanere, had said that 95% of persons who may contract COVID-19 are likely to survive. Now, his own take, obviously, is that most of the cases that Nigeria has seen are mild cases. And I guess that's some form of consolation. But I will place that against the declaration also that the end of COVID-19 is
not in
still
sight.
far. Right. So that's a cautionary note. And what it means is that the Presidential Task Force has moved from the initial state of denial, telling Nigerians, don't panic, to an acceptance of the reality that we face. Now we have 665 confirmed cases with 22 dead. Now they are saying, look, everybody has to be careful because this thing may not end so quickly. I think, some dose of realism is beginning to descend, particularly as we have seen that the cases are spreading.
Yeah.
Cases that had no index case before now have index cases.
Coupled with the fact that we are not even doing enough testing.
Including the state where the governor says there will be no index case because the state is mentioned in the Bible. Abia case now has an index case. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Gombe has an index case. Sokoto has an index case. So the thing is spreading, and it shows that this is something, an emergency that needs to be treated with a greater sense of urgency.
So governors must also know that this is not a joke, to quote the president.
Yes.
It's a matter of life and death.
Yes, but still...
to come to a time when we keep quoting President Buhari.
Yes. You know, for a long time, people were accusing the president that no quotable quotes. Now we have.
No, now we have quotable quotes. We can't even contextualize it because they're not quoting their own quotes.
We live in very interesting times.
Yes, but now,
man.
talking of apology, if you look at the New Telegraph, Secretary to Government of the Federation, Minister shuns Buhari's order refused to quarantine. After the apology, we have this, because there was this instruction that all who attended the funeral, the burial, should self-quarantine. But the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, other ministers, including Adis Serika, the Minister of Aviation, they are still going about in public places. They have not self-quarantined.
But Mr. Efeni, now you see what I mean when I said their apology is useless and their apology means nothing because they will do it again and again and again.
And
What a shame.
Well, the excuse that some officials have given in the past is that they are on essential service. Now, what we do not know is whether being on essential service
Means it can infect
includes
everybody.
the risk of becoming a super spreader.
yes.
But of course, they also have families, they have friends, and they ought to realize that life is more important than the kind of risks that they expose themselves to and that they expose other persons to. But I know we all have obligations. After all, we all come to the studio every morning to come and offer essential service. If it were possible, we'll probably stay at home. You know,
But at
to
the end of
self-isolate.
it, if you were exposed
But then
as well
who will
to
be here to do the talk work?
No,
that
but if
we
you
do?
were exposed, for example, to
You
a
have to
COVID-19 patient,
self-quarantine.
you would go home and stay at home. That's exactly what we're asking of our public officials.
True.
You've been exposed to a certain level, go and self-isolate, you know? Just
But if we
basic.
look at the Punch newspaper, because this is another controversy that seems to be brewing. Kerry, COVID-19 corpses not infectious, says task force. I hope it's not this breach that is informing this reversal of, because the impression one got initially was that corpses of COVID-19 victims need to be treated with care. In some climes, they don't even allow the family members to come close. Specially kitted specialists are given the assignment to go and bury these corpses or cremate them, as it were.
Well,
But now we are having this coming immediately after this breach that COVID-19 corpses, not infectious, say task force, and they are justifying it.
Hasn't necessarily
This is
been
the new position?
scientifically proven, if I'm correct, yet. But I think the reason why a lot of countries were taking those measures was because it hasn't been scientifically proven, so they didn't know whether the corpses would still be infected or not. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has issued guidelines on burial protocols. And yes, the WHO admits that COVID-19, you know, the corpses of COVID-19 persons, you know, are not necessarily infectious. But at the same time, the WHO says certain protocols must be followed. There must be physical distancing. There must be social distancing at such burials. There must be no large gathering. People should take necessary precautions, such as wearing masks and making sure that, you know, they just avoid any form of contact. And that is why in many of the burials that we're seeing in other places, you don't see a crowd. Maybe you have like 4 or 5 persons. Family members may not even be allowed to attend. There was one burial that was conducted somewhere in Europe. It was by Zoom that the family members, you know, watched the burial. They were not allowed to come there. So while it is said that, yes, it may not be once the person dies, the virus dies, still the WHO has not given approval that people should go to the burial site as if they are having an owambe, as Nigerians call it, and wearing a ashwebi as if it's a normal situation. So nobody should take this statement seriously. I think this is a defensive statement, just to reassure people that the government did not do anything wrong at the burial of Abba Kyari. Going forward, necessary precautions must be taken.
I think that
nobody should come and tell us that the local people, because the dead is very famous, they came there and there was no way they could be sent away. No, that doesn't make sense. We all must be careful. Look at Kano. The numbers in Kano are beginning to rise. And we have to be really careful because Kano has a large population.
Yes. Kano is shocking.
If we look at the Daily Trust newspaper, something happened in Kano over the last 3 days, over the weekend, and people are scared. 150 people die in Kano in 3 days. Yes, these deaths, they've not been traced particularly to COVID-19, but the frequency with which the burials took place more than the usual in a few cemeteries also caused panic in Kano, whether indeed the spread of the COVID-19 is what is causing the frequent deaths. But Kano is a densely populated state, and they also need to be very cautious, test widely, ensure that people keep all the necessary protocols.
Well, I think the lockdown in Kano should be enforced.
Yeah.
Because apart from Lagos, Kano is the next most populated place. And we need the people of Kano alive.
Yeah.
So this is not a thing to be negligent about. But however, the Daily Trust that you have taken, there's another very important story there that I thought you would take. The crisis with oil prices.
Yes.
Brent crude has dropped to $26.
Yes.
And WTI was trading yesterday at about $1.
The West Texas Intermediate
was trading at about $1. Now, it shows that the decision, the production cut by OPEC Plus
is not
will seem not to be having the right effect.
Yeah.
But maybe it's nothing to panic about. This is about the May futures. By June, we may likely see a difference. Oil prices being volatile. But we still have a problem with demand. We have a problem with storage facilities that are overwhelmed.
Unsold stock.
Yes.
Still on the high seas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni.